Have you ever thought to start your own business, cause, or just have influence? Well, with me today are two young ladies here to share their story, how they're changing lives, their challenges, and their plans for the future. Hey, no, 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 hey, no, no.
I'm Kyla Trainer.
I'm Jennifer Nicolaisen, and we are
SeekHealing.
My name is Jennifer Nicolaisen. I guess I founded the SeekHealing project 6 months ago or so, maybe more than that now. And Kyla officially came on board, although she's always been really supportive as a friend, in October. And the mission of the SeekHealing project is to challenge the current standard narrative around rehab and recovery from addiction, and really challenge the concept of addiction itself as we currently understand it, and offer new ways for people to recover that are primarily focused on connection rather than taking another prescription or going through a cookie cutter treatment model.
Yeah, I think Jen pretty much said it all. I'm helping with my technical title, I guess, is sort of the COO if she's the CEO, but technically the VP of Global Operations. And I'm focusing on gaining a following and presence on social media across different platforms, specifically Instagram and fundraising. And so I've kind of led those efforts. And of course, I've been on board with this since day one, but it's been quite a journey. And Jennifer and I are going to be working on this very heavily soon when she comes to live in Nashville.
I'm so excited. Kyla is the grease that keeps the wheels turning. Man, she really bears the burden of practicality and keeping things actually moving when I lose track of all the moving pieces. We make a really awesome team.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell everyone out there a little bit more about what it is you actually are doing to change lives or to influence others or to help people become better.
So what we believe, and there's a lot of research out there now to show this, is that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. And people who end up bonding to opiates or other chemicals, it's not due to some moral failing or hedonistic partying. And likewise, the common liberal view is that it's a chemical hook that gets in you that you can't escape and it's not your fault, right? And we take the stance that neither of these things are true. So what we're doing to help is creating environments where people can start to feel connected to their world and to each other. That's really what drives addiction in the modern world. And so we're coming up with innovative ways to change that. At this point, we're still at the fundraising stage and getting our message out there stage. It takes money to actually start some of these programs. But the first thing that we want to do to really start making a tangible difference with low overhead is create an online environment for this to happen. So matching people who are bonded to opiates with millennials or retirees who have time to give and who are willing to volunteer, who we can then match in this online private chat environment to give people who are struggling just a voice and an outlet. Again, getting back to the idea that connection is really what helps people heal from addiction. And I mean, the addicts who I work with, and I hate using that word myself, having been an addict before. The number one thing, that sucks when you're struggling with an addiction is you don't have anybody to be real with. You don't have anybody to. My favorite quote is this guy that I'm helping right now who says, "Man, you're the only person that I can talk about deep shit with." And that's real, that's really real. And we all need that. And especially if we're struggling with addiction, we need someone who we can be real with. So that's what we do.
So it sounds like you've had some challenging experiences personally that has made you want to create what you guys have created. So tell people your story. Tell people what caused you to do what you're doing now.
Do you want me to go first, Kyla?
I can go first, just to give you a little bit of background on why I'm kind of involved. First of all, the whole catalyst of the project started with a mutual friend of mine and Jennifer's, closer to Jen, but and she'll sort of tell you about that. But my direct link with the whole opiate epidemic is I'm from North Carolina, and if you've read anything about the heroin and opiate epidemic in North Carolina, it's skyrocketed 564% over the last like 4 years in overdoses. And I've personally known about 10 people that have passed away that are my age from opiate overdose, whether that be synthetic or not. So it's just kind of wrecked my hometown, and I have a lot of family and friends that are suffering, and I get a phone call probably once every couple months saying, someone else has passed away that I either, not too terribly close with, but that I grew up with or that I knew. So, so that's why I have a passion for this, and I'm involved, and I just don't want it to. I'm sure my hometown is just like another person's hometown that's out there that's struggling and sad and doesn't want to see this happen.
Thank you, Kyla. That was really well said. You made me all emotional.
I know.
It's really sad. It's really, really sad. I don't come from as rooted a hometown as Kyla does. I've moved around a lot during my life, but I've also had many friends now who've fallen into opiate addiction and some who've fallen into heroin addiction. What specifically catalyzed the idea of SeekHealing as an organization and a project was last year. I decided to partner with one of those friends. She overdosed and saw no way out of her current situation, and through partnership with me, and I ended up sponsoring her through this alternative type of detox program. That program for her helped her to catalyze a life-changing transformation, and I'm so happy to say that she's clean today, a year later, and she's happy, and she's actually vegan. Not only did she quit heroin, she quit smoking cigarettes, quit drinking coffee, and she's doing really, really well. But what we learned a lot of things through that process. And you asked about what the struggle was, and we found this incredible alternative detox therapy, which I'm happy to talk more about, but it's kind of beside the point. It's not here in the US, it's in Mexico. And it worked insofar as to end her physical addiction. But what was left in the wake of her physical addiction were all of the mental health issues and insecurities and fears that had originally triggered the addiction in the first place. And she found herself without any kind of resources for support during that time. So she, was able to make this huge change in her life. Obviously, it wouldn't have been healthy for her to go back to the environment she had been in, which was surrounded by triggers and everything else. So she really had no options. And that's really why Kyla and I are doing this, because detox is one thing, but the true journey to long-lasting healing takes months, can take years. It's different for every person. Every person needs something different during that time to help them feel connected. So we want to build a place where it doesn't cost $20,000 to come stay for 6 months, and we don't tell you what to do every day on what schedule, but rather we help facilitate your healing and connection in an organic way. I don't think I said that earlier, but the online listening program is the first program that we want to launch, and then the second one is actually designing and constructing a facility that will be a residential living campus. So the struggle of helping my friend, that particular friend, really catalyzed this. And then I guess I would also say that I'm myself no stranger to addiction. I haven't struggled with opiate addiction, but I have had a long journey with cocaine and amphetamines, which I'm finally put behind me last year. And that is a part of my life that helps me stay grounded in remembering that there really is no difference between being a quote addict and being a normal human being. We're all humans, and we all struggle. We all have our neuroses and our little addictions and compulsions. And I think that the more that we stigmatize each other with a label like addict, or like, that's just driving the type of disconnectedness that is making addiction a crisis in this country.
That's awesome. So you guys are still in the beginning phase of what you're doing, and you're helping a lot of people who are really trying to separate themselves from the opiates that they've been around in their lives or encountered through friends, and just really haven't been able to separate it. How did you get started? What are the practical steps that you guys use or are using to get started? Because I know you talked about having just like a forum where you guys can have conversations with other individuals, and other individuals can have conversations with those who are in the surrounding areas, or even in the social connection. What are some of the steps that you're using to really do what you want to do?
Yeah, we're taking every day one step at a time. It's I find the more that I try to have a really clear plan that we follow step by step, the more that falls apart. But I don't know. I guess the simple answer is community and our tribe and the people who are already bought into this. Right? We want to obviously make this big. We need a lot of money to build that center I was talking about. But what did you say? The practical things that we've been doing to get this started, honestly, have been leaning on the people who Kyla and I love and are connected to already. So in October, I went down to Mexico to learn more about this alternative treatment practice for heroin addiction and network with the detox providers. And that was when Kyla came on board. And at that time, the real thing holding it all together was a newsletter. So because I was going off the grid, like into the field to do this research, I wasn't going to have access to the internet. And so Kyla took on the responsibility of sending out regular updates to our wider tribe via newsletter. It has like some 80 to 100 people on it. And then from there, it's just been growing. We've explored a lot of different ways. Kyla, I feel like you can talk about this better.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a kind of a sore throat today, but yeah, I mean, if you want sort of more practical, like specifics, we've really utilized, like Jen said, anyone that's volunteered or wants to step up and be involved. We've really reached out to, within the newsletter that she mentioned, we've reached out to people, and and we had a few people that are diehard wanting to help us. So just sort of delegating tasks and being able to utilize people's volunteer spirit. That's really kind of how we're going to launch this, is because we don't have enough money to actually pay people to work for us. So that's one way. The second way would be social media platforms. So we have Twitter, Facebook, of course, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, which we're going to start launching in a little bit. So trying to gain a social platform and trying to get support on across those mediums. We think that that's how we're going to really get the word out there and sort of spread the news. And I've been really trying to figure out how to crack the Instagram code, as you probably are also doing. And I've found that it's just such a great platform to reach all types of people, all ages, all races, people from across the country and across the world. So just sort of utilizing those platforms. And then the next step is going to be Kickstarter. We're going to do a video for fundraising, and we're going to sort of Kickstarter to do fundraising. But right now we are doing merchandise, selling merchandise with the shop. So that's kind of where we're at in the sequence.
That's awesome. So basically, you're getting started by using some of the social media. Some people who are really into what you're doing as far as helping others. I think it's awesome that you took the opportunity to do something different, as far as go to another country and find a solution to the problem that you guys are trying to really solve. Talk about some of the challenges that you've encountered throughout the process, some of the things that really were frustrating or just made you want to quit.
Can I start with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I took on the challenge of getting us incorporated as a nonprofit, and I went on, LegalZoom, and we've done this before. Jen's got another LLC, and I've done some other things in the past. But it's really easy to do an LLC. You just go on and type in your information, and it's pretty much done. And I thought it was the same with the nonprofit. Well, that's not the case. It takes a lot of paperwork and a lot of money, and a lot of red tape to actually become a technical 501c3. to get that tax code, basically, which in turn will allow donors to have a tax write-off for their donations. And if you don't have that, then people are likely not going to donate. So we've run up into a struggle with actually becoming a technical 501c3, which Jennifer is now working on a long form. And that's going to take a long time. But
we're basically saying, screw the lawyers, we're going to do it ourselves, but hopefully we do it the right way.
Exactly. So that was one thing that was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. All this time we thought we were a nonprofit. And technically we were a state recognized nonprofit, but not a federally recognized nonprofit. So the legal work and the legal paperwork and the red tape and all that stuff is sort of it can be a hindrance. But as far as the movement, I mean, people are just coming out of the woodwork left and right to support us. So there's the momentum's moving forward. There's just been some small hurdles that we've faced like that. What about you, Jen? Do you have something to add? I'm sure there's more we could think of.
I mean, that's probably the biggest, easily quantifiable challenge that we've had is the legal side of it and the tax side of it. And I could get on the soapbox and talk about that, but I'm not going to. It upsets me how hard it is to do something good for the world, and like we have people willing to give money and just anyway, I'm not gonna go there. I guess I would talk about what my personal struggle has been. So I was working at a full-time job for the past 4 or 5 years and quit in May to really dedicate myself to this full-time. And there's just a lot of inherent challenge in that, or has been for me. And the more that we dive deeply into this, and the more that I'm, socially saying that this is what I'm committed to, and not just among my friends, but among, former colleagues or with family who have certain expectations of me and how my life will turn out. Interacting in those situations and expressing myself with confidence and without doubt in what I'm doing that's been a challenge for sure. One that I'm happy to embrace. Maybe happy is a strong word. One that I am embracing because I recognize that I'm learning and gaining a lot from that challenge. But it has certainly been challenging. I sent Kyla this meme a few months ago that says like the day in the life of an entrepreneur, and it starts and you like go really really high, and then 5 minutes later you're like down here, like I'm doing awesome things for the world, but I'm completely broke. What was I thinking? And it's just like this roller coaster. So that's certainly been emotionally for me. That's been a difficult thing. But again, like I just keep coming back to my community and the people that are supporting me in this. Kyla, I would never be able to do this without Kyla and without others who have, who really believe in what we're doing and who aren't going to let me fall. I'm putting my full-time effort into it, but I'm not the only one that cares to see it succeed. So I know that with the support of my friends and family that this is going to work out and it's all going to be great.
That's awesome. So a lot of people out there aren't super familiar with what a nonprofit organization is and what a limited liability corporation or company may be. And I know you mentioned that people wanted to just kind of give you funds but weren't able to. So could you talk a little bit more about those 3 things, about people wanting to give but not really able to for whatever reason, why you incorporated yourself, and what it means to be a nonprofit versus a profit organization?
Sure. It's a sticky subject, right? Because as I'm working through business planning, there are elements of this model that will be for-profit and elements that are nonprofit. When we get the Connection Hub up and running, that's the name that we have for the facility we're going to build, there will be aspects of that business that will generate revenue that we can account for from a tax perspective. And, business as usual kind of thing. I think everyone understands that when you make money, you have to pay the government taxes. When you're just trying to solicit donations from people because people believe in the cause that you have, and right now we're in a position, so even if we just wanted to start the Seek listening program, which is something we want to do, that takes a pretty limited amount of funds, but we still need funds. We need to pay a web developer to help us get that online environment set up. We need someone to help with administration, and just other expenses related to getting an effort like that started up in a proper way. We want to do training and orientation for the people who are involved. So first thing, we come up with this budget. So we need this money. Then there are people who are willing to donate. We have a couple people who work for companies that will match their donation, but only if you have that 501c3 tax designation. So 501c3 isn't actually a type of organization. In America, when you decide to incorporate an organization of human beings, it can either be an LLC, which is a for-profit corporation, an S Corp, or a C Corp. These are all different classifications of businesses. So SeekHealing, our project, is currently a LLC in Virginia, and then we registered it as a nonprofit organization in Virginia, which doesn't really mean anything. It's because you still get taxed like a normal organization. The only way that you can avoid government tax is by getting this 501c3 designation. And in order to do that, there's a 28-page form, which includes references to all kinds of addendums. And I don't want to complain about the process of doing that, because I'm actually finding that as I go through this form, it's helping me think through, some of the subtleties of the business model and complexities that we need to be considering. But what has been challenging, what was really deflating at first when we first found out about this, was that it was going to cost, like the quotes we were getting from attorneys and lawyers was to prepare that form on our behalf, because it's so complicated, and because if you fill out anything wrong, you're going to expose yourself to massive liabilities and all these kind of scare tactics. That at minimum that it's going to cost $1,500, and if you get a good lawyer to do it, it'll cost $5,000. So, like I said, whatever. We just printed the form. We're going to do it ourselves, and have some lawyer friends look over it. But those angels in our tribe, hopefully. Exactly. But it's like really cost prohibitive, and then there's all kinds of other expenses related to maintaining the 501c3, especially if you have large donations, like we're anticipating. And then the role that the board plays is a large part of how that form gets filled out and how your 501c3 is established. All the board members, the states where they reside makes a difference. And depending on where you're receiving donations from, you have to be able to file taxes in each of those states. So it also really matters where you incorporate. I don't know how much you want to hear about this. There's more.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for you to just get your word out there. So for anyone you want to know the challenges that you faced, who may have challenges themselves, how you got started, this is your platform. So I want you just to let the water run.
I think just to add to Jennifer, maybe a good thought to for those that are thinking about doing this, I would advise you to first of all save your own personal money, a lot of it, just to fall back on, because especially if you quit, because I'm not in a position to quit my job, unfortunately, or I probably would. I would love to, but I'm just not in that sort of position. So if you want to dedicate your life to something, first you're going to need to do your homework, save your money, and also just start connecting with people that, first of all, you want to make an authentic, genuine connection. You don't want to use people for what they can do for you, but it doesn't hurt to have friends that know a thing or two about the law and about building an organization, fellow entrepreneurs. So that would be my advice: is to first save your money, secondly do your homework, and then thirdly make the right connections with people that are gonna put you on their shoulders, because you cannot do this alone. It's impossible.
Yeah, literally impossible.
When has there ever been a time when either one of you just felt like you just wanted to give up? So kind of talk about that emotion that was involved, what caused that emotion, and how you overcame, or what tools you used to overcome.
You want me to go?
Has there been a time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, of course, I have my job. I have a full-time job, but I work from home, so I have a very flexible schedule, so I can dedicate a lot of hours to working on this as well as my job. Um, and then, of course, evening hours. A lot of evening hours are spent on this. um, so sometimes when I worked a full day, and I also have to, I have to answer to Jennifer, and I'm like, oh, I needed to do this, but I didn't do it, and do I even have time for all of this? And so it gets, because I've got a husband who's about to deploy, I've got many animals, and I'm trying to establish a life, and four, and I'm trying to establish a life in Nashville. I've got a lot going on too. So sometimes you just like, oh, this is a lot of work. I just want to relax. But it's a lot to think about. So that's one struggle. But in the end, I mean, it's never broken me. It's never been so bad that I wanted to quit. But then there's also, secondly, the social pressure that your family and your friends might, and oftentimes it's just sort of an internal, what are people thinking about me? What do they think I have enough background to do something like this? Or just for example, like some of my friends back in my hometown, I wonder if they think she doesn't know anything about opiates. Why would she care? But I do. I care quite a bit, and I care, about my hometown, and I care about my family and friends that are hurting back there. So I think, first of all, the time that it takes, and the effort and energy that is so draining sometimes with this type of project, it can get to you. And then secondly, just your own internal voice and how people are going to perceive you and stuff like that. It's a deterrent. But in the end, to cope with things like that, to answer your question, I think it's really just about taking a step back and reflecting. And Jen and I both do a lot of meditating and a lot of self-reflection. And we encourage each other, and we have each other's backs. So, if the worst comes to worst, I know Jen will never, she'll always be there for me, and she'll always be there for this. So we can depend on each other, and that's what we need.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable. Yeah, I don't know that I've gotten to a point where I felt like quitting. The closest I got, and I still, the thought of like, we should just give up, never really came across my head. But it was being fed to me last week during a meeting that we had with this tax attorney, and I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. It was basically like all of the data lined up in front of us to say that what you're trying to do is impossible. And like Kyla said, my coping strategy for that was to call her immediately.
And we did this breathing namaste 1, 2, 3
together, and we're like, I don't know what's gonna happen next, but we know that this is, we know that we have each other, and we have this vision, and it turns out, a lot of what he said was exaggerated, and there's other avenues that we can explore, and but that was really hard, and my relationships and my tribe got me through it. And then I also really resonate with what Kyla said about just feeling really busy, feeling overwhelmed. I don't have a full-time job, but I'm trying to just make ends meet so that I can make this my full-time priority. And the stress of managing those priorities has been challenging for sure. And there are days where I just want to relax, like you said, Yeah. And I think that going forward, I'm actually glad that you raised that. It's like not something that we've really talked about. And for me, the way that I'm trying to deal with that is honoring my daily routine. And no matter what, when I get out of bed, I don't check my phone first. I get on my yoga mat and I meditate and I take my shower and take the dogs out. And then I open up, the world of digital everything. And And in that way, I feel more oriented and peaceful towards it. And I hope that that's something that you and I can cultivate, Kyla, as we're working on this. And wherever it takes us is always taking the time that we need to step back and build our energy when we need to, because that's so important, especially when we have to give our energy to things like husbands and jobs and your money making activities. And yeah.
I find plenty of time to relax. Don't get me wrong.
Me too.
But my husband is deploying he's deploying on Monday, so I'll have plenty of time to do this for for maybe 6 months, I guess. He'll be gone. So,
and I won't feel so guilty about stealing you from him in the evenings.
It's perfect. It's fine. It's great.
That's awesome.
Your hustle, my friend. Thank you for getting up so early to talk to us.
Hey, no, 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 hey, no, no.